Welcome to the BLC Connection Podcast. I'm Brian Kell.
I'm Karen Wilson.
And I'm Micah Lawrence.
Let's get connected.
It is the BLC Connection Podcast. Brian Kell.
Karen Wilson.
Micah Lawrence.
All right, and we've got the gang back together. It is the 11th episode. We've reached double hockey sticks on this one as we move past 10 and into 11. On this episode, Micah, lots going on.
That's right. We're going to find out a little bit more about what's going on Channel 6, Connection Magazine, and events in June.
Karen Wilson, 2 letters, IP.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Clent Kesey and discover what an IP address is and why it's so important to us and to our households and businesses.
Okay, and then Micah, you got your bag of shenanigans with you?
I've got them ready.
Okay, and so all that, plus next we're going to find out who or what this Arlo guy is and why your home or small business might need to get to know him with our own Chris Centracchio. Kick back, enjoy. It's the BLC Connection Podcast. BLC Connection Podcast, joining us literally in the managed IT area is IT manager and security. I guess it's IT and security manager, Chris Centracchio. Chris Centracchio, welcome to the BLC Connection Podcast.
Thank you.
You've been wanting to get on here so bad for the last, I guess we've been doing this now a little over a year, and I'm glad that we could make your wish happen. Finally coming on you. Are you pumped? You
good? I am, yes.
Okay. We've got you on here because we've talked a lot inside these walls, and then we've talked a lot outside these walls about something called Arlo. So, Chris Centracchio, will you please put to rest, what is Arlo?
Arlo is a brand of surveillance cameras and systems that we now offer here at Ben Lomond that is implemented in with our Ben Lomond Home app to a degree.
To a degree, you
To
say?
a degree.
Okay. You want to tell us what that degree is? Or
Well, yes, I can.
Okay.
Well, what that allows the customer to do is they don't have to swivel between the Arlo app and our Ben Lomond Home app to get to different functions. They can check their battery level right from Ben Lomond Home. They can see if their cameras are online, all of that without having to hop over to the Arlo app.
Okay. Yeah, and we're going to talk, I think, a little bit more about that, about how this incorporate, how it is a Ben Lomond Home family of products. And I guess when you're part of Ben Lomond Home, we're talking what, well, we'll talk about, I think that's Karen's question later on during this whole thing. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later on.
Well, there are, some confusion on our Ben Lomond Security Skybell doorbell and the Arlo doorbell. Can you help clear that up for us?
Yes, and I can understand some of the confusion because they do look very similar when you compare them, just eyeballing them. The Skybell doorbell works with our current security offering with the Honeywell/Residio hardware. Mm-hmm. Arlo is a standalone surveillance doorbell. It is 100% wireless, the one that we sell. So it's different in that respect.
And I'll kind of follow up to that. So just, as somebody that's kind of learning about the security is more like the alarm goes off, you've got an intruder, but the Arlo is more like observation type stuff, but it can work in conjunction, I guess. It could be utilized as security too.
It can to a degree. What the Arlo offering gives the customer is the ability to see motion alerts and that sort of thing on their property, whether they're at home, on the go, on their phone. It allows them to do all that. It has two-way audio, so they can hear and talk to the person on the other end that they detect, all of that. The main difference is right now we do not have integration with our Arlo offering to do, 911 calls, that sort of thing.
Right. So we're thinking like nanny cams, watching the front door for people delivering packages and things like that.
Yes. Indoor, outdoor cameras, the doorbell, all of that. And they also have floodlights.
Mm.
All right. So, Chris, you mentioned some of the different cameras. What kind of different options does people have? I'm assuming you mentioned there's floodlight cameras, there's doorbells. What other kind of cameras are available to everyone?
Currently, Ben Lomond offers the Ultra Pro 4 series cameras. They're wireless. 2K. They have a built-in floodlight and two-way audio. We do have a 4K offering camera. It is the Arlo Pro 2s. The main difference between those is the Pro 2s will draw a quicker battery life. It'll less life on your battery with the Pro 2s versus the Pro 4s. We have floodlight cameras. Those are the Pro 3s. And we also offer the Essential doorbells, which we have wireless, and we do offer the wired, although we prefer you to get the wireless because they're easier to install and maintain.
And you're involved in the installation process, so you want to make it
I am.
easy.
I'll follow up with that since we just had a security system put in at a shop we've got, and the clarity between the cameras is so different with the Arlo because we can see like a body coming in, really can't quite tell who it is, which is fine. But with that Arlo camera, whether it's 2K or 4K, you're talking about you can basically see who it is and identify who it is.
Yeah, you can. They have very good clarity. They also have a 160-degree field of view, so
Okay.
you can really cover a lot of area with just one camera, so it makes it really easy to install at a person's home and get the coverage that they want.
I'm fascinated by the floodlight camera. Tell me a little bit more about that, how that operates, I guess.
It is actually an LED. It looks like a floodlight, like a big long light with the camera in the middle. The floodlight cameras do have the XL battery, which increases the life a little bit versus the standard batteries that come in the Pro 4s and the Ultra 4s and the Pro 2s. And it's again wireless, very easy to put in, install, and it's really bright. It will blind you.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so perfect lead into this next question. You talked about batteries. For folks that maybe have had a wireless doorbell for a while, I'm sure over the years those batteries are getting better. But with Ben Lomond Connect's Arlo system, we've got some really brand new batteries that have longer life, but then you've got another option for them as well, even outside of batteries. Talk about that.
Yes, one of the big questions that we get asked a lot is, well, if I'm putting these outdoors on my home, I don't want to have to climb up on a ladder every 2 months to swap a battery. So Arlo does have a solar panel. It's probably a 3x5 little square that we can mount that will continuously charge the batteries for your outdoor cameras. They're very small. We can mount them kind of inconspicuously as well, and they work really great. I mean, once you put those in, you don't have to swap a battery. And
if for some reason somebody still wants to stay with the battery side of things, they've come out with a longer lasting battery. Talk about that. Yes, Arlo does have an XL battery, which is basically the battery that comes in the floodlight camera. And these can get put into the Pro 4s and the Pro 5s. And it comes with the XL battery and a new housing, which allows for the larger battery. Gotcha. Okay.
So with all these cameras, and talking about installing them and what kind you can get, when we talk about the Arlo app, what kind of things can you do in the Arlo app? Or, I'm assuming this is all on everybody's mobile phones. How do they access it? What kind of features are available there?
Mm-hmm. In the Arlo app, it gives you a nice little dashboard. You can see all of your cameras. You can get text alerts on your phone when they detect motion, and along with each alert, you'll get a screenshot, basically, of what it detected. You can go into each of your cameras through the app and configure them however you want. You can turn the spotlights on, off, the floodlights on, off. You can turn two-way audio on or off. You can set your trigger zones to where, if you want to make sure you don't get a trigger every time your neighbor leaves their driveway, you set a polygon zone in your yard, and it basically ignores everything going on outside it.
Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to, let's say every day I'm going to work between 8 and 5 o'clock, and anybody that sets off the motion alarm, I can get an alert on my phone between that time period?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can use schedules too, also, set schedules.
Gotcha. Cool.
So Arlo is part of the Ben Lomond family of products. So Ben Lomond fiber and a robust fiber router like the GigaSpire Blast is very important because it is a video-based product.
It is, and it's going over your wireless network. The other side of that is we provision these through our support cloud. So we recommend you have a GigaSpire. It's a very good router. We've done side-by-side comparisons with Nighthawk, and they get the same coverage and basically the same features. And it allows our network support folks to be able to give you an extra layer of support when you call in and you have trouble with your cameras.
Right. I think that's great. That sold me on the GigaSpire right away, because the technician doesn't necessarily have to come to the home to troubleshoot or anything like that. Everything can be done remotely.
So, Chris, you've done a few of these installs, and you've heard some people install. What are kind of some things that people are putting cameras on? What are they using it for?
We've put them on vacation homes. We have a couple that live in Canada, and they wanted to make sure nothing's going on at their home outside, so they've got floodlights on all four corners. We have had people put them in, and indoor and outdoor cameras. They've had the Pro 4 sitting on their kitchen counter and in their living room. That way they can make sure when their kids get home from school off the bus that they get in the house okay. All of that.
And I think also we've got someone that is kind of watching a relative that's kind of older to make sure that they're okay. And
yes,
things like that.
Yes, we actually, that was with my wife's family side. They put cameras in at her grandmother's home in order to make sure that she's okay and keep up with her basically 24/7. And it was a very good alternative versus putting her in like an assisted living type situation. She gets to stay home, and they get the peace of mind of knowing that if something happens, they can see it right there and respond.
Gotcha.
I want to mention this is that all this that we've talked about and so very much more can be found on our website. I know Karen likes for us to be able to plug that. She's put a lot of time in on that as well. But if you go to our website and go to the search area, just type in Arlo, and that's the first thing that'll pop up. Click on that, and it will take you through multiple videos that will go even more in depth as far as all the items that we've talked about today. And I want to say this too, is that this is something really easy to get into, in that if you just want one camera, whether it's a doorbell or something on the outside or maybe even inside, it starts at $550. So it's a very easy little price point to get into if you're looking to get into Arlo. And Chris, you can expand off that so much bigger than start with one and go to 5 or 6 real quick.
Yes, and the other good thing about Arlo with them being wireless is you can move these cameras wherever you want, as long as they're within your Wi-Fi coverage. If you want to put one outside on a tree, put it on a tree. If you want to move one down the hall inside your house, you can do that. They have magnetic mounts, and you're not restricted by where that wire is run because there is no wire.
And also, too, what you get with all of this on the monthly side of things with us helping, you get that BLC professional install. Talk a little bit about that.
So we will come out and install the cameras for you. We will walk you through the setup, show you how to set your polygon zones, introduce you to the app, give you step-by-step instructions for everything you need to know on the app side as well as the camera side.
Good deal. If you have more questions on Arlo, like we said, the Ben Lomond Connect website page has got a ton of information there, or just call into your local office. And the folks, either the customer service representatives, our growing sales staff that we've got, and also the fantastic, you've already mentioned them, customer support center too, can be able to be there and answer some more questions about that. Chris Centracchio, thank you for sitting down and explaining who this Arlo character is and how he can help us all with watching things that are important to us.
Well, thank you for having me, and everyone please go out and check out our Arlo offer. We'd be happy to talk to you, answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Chris.
Welcome back to the BLC Connection podcast, and our next guest is Mr. Clent Kesey. He is the Central Office Supervisor here at Ben Lomond. Welcome to the podcast, Clent.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming down the hall and joining us on this Friday afternoon. We're all, anticipating going home at some point, and you've jumped right in to help us. Tell us a little bit about you, Clent. You've been here quite some time now.
Yeah, I've been here going on 17, 18 years with Ben Lomond. I've worked with several people, several departments. It's been a good opportunity, good place to work.
I was going to say, I think I remember like you come into the BLC office when I worked there and you would, work on our computers and things. And you've jumped around it's all been in the same vein of computer work and then central office work.
Yeah, mostly central office work. Started several years ago in central office, been on the video side and then moved to the networking side, the IP side. So I've had several different hats over the last several years.
Were you one of those that started in the customer support center area or no?
Yes, but it wasn't called that.
He started off in the internet department before we even had a customer response center.
Okay.
Where internet took care of tech support.
I got you. Okay.
So we did a little Micah and I did a little tech support and working with customers and working on equipment, a little bit of everything.
Gotcha. Okay. So one of the big reason we've got you down here is because you've been begging to come on the podcast, and we're like, okay, fine, come on and do a segment with us. And so no, I'm joking.
He's a podcast stalker.
Yes, he is. No, we've begged him. No, but Clent, we've got some questions. We'll talk about those questions in a minute. But before we jump into questions from folks out in podcast land, tell us, what is an IP address and why should we care about an IP address?
So as an IP address is in a unique way that your computer or your device from your house can be identified on the internet. That address is used to route traffic. Say you're requesting Netflix traffic. That's a way that we route traffic back and forth to your particular home or your particular device.
Okay. And along those lines, we're in a home, in a business, there may be all kinds of IP addresses, right?
Sure. Yeah, there's lots of different IP addresses that Ben Lomond uses and maintains and owns, and some of which we'll talk about the differences in those IPv4 and V6 addresses. But yeah, Ben Lomond manages lots of IP addresses, V4 and V6 addresses.
Okay.
So, Clent, we know that, we deal with this every day. We know that we've got internal IP addresses, those ones that are only available to your internal network. We know you got external IP addresses. So when we talk about those ones that Ben Lomond manages, we're talking about those global ones, the ones that the world sees. So how does Ben Lomond go about, securing or getting these global IP addresses?
So for many years, Ben Lomond didn't own addresses. When we first got into dial-up, we were using other folks' IP addresses. We were leasing those addresses. We have purchased some addresses recently that has doubled or tripled the amount of addresses we have. And we came on that opportunity to sort of secure our future in the V4 space. So we originally were given some space from Aaron, some small allocations from Aaron. But we have since, like I said, purchased some additional addresses, actually 2 rounds of those, that should give us several V4 addresses for many years.
So I guess just to clarify, when we talk about the different IP addresses, we're talking about V4 and V6. What is Ben Lomond and pretty much most of the world on today?
So the internet routing table was essentially based on V4 addresses, and that's predominantly what's used to route traffic today. V6 is becoming more popular, but still today, V4 is the bulk of our traffic.
And Aaron is, I guess, basically our authority for North America, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
There's different authorities for different countries. Of these people maintain that list of ownership of IP space.
That's right. For North America, Aaron is the governing authority body over V4 and V6 addresses.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a question from our podcast listener, Jay Williams. He asked us, first of all, how many IP addresses does Ben Lomond Connect have at their disposal, and will we run out?
That's a good question. Without giving away some proprietary information, Ben Lomond does have lots of V4 addresses at our disposal. We've planned for those over the last several years for growth that we're coming into in the Crossville area and other areas. But yeah, we have secured, like I said, V4 addresses in 2 different blocks over the last 3 years. That was a substantial investment that Ben Lomond made in those addresses for future use.
All right, Clent. Also, Jay Williams, and appreciate Jay for listening to the podcast. He also wants to know, does BLC have any plans when they'll roll out an IPv6 network? And then maybe in answering that question, maybe lead into that by talking about what kind of network we currently have. I think you kind of touched on that. And what differences IPv6 can make for either the network and or the BLC customer.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I'll lead in by talking about the differences in V4 and V6. There is a train of thought that the V4 addresses will run out soon. That train of thought has been the train of thought for the last several years, and we still have not ran out, mainly because there are lots of businesses and corporations, lots of educational institutions that are sitting on a lot of V4 addresses that are not used. And so that's actually how Ben Lomond came into the opportunity to purchase V4 addresses. But Ben Lomond runs what's called a dual stack. A dual stack is V4 and V6 instances. So Ben Lomond owns V6 space, and we run a dual stack. We're routing V6 addresses to several of our large upstreams. We peer with Google and Facebook and some of Netflix and some of those that we have V6 addresses with. So today, Ben Lomond we're not rolling out V6 addresses to our customers, mainly because we have lots of V4 addresses, that we can use. But at some point in time, we will be looking at rolling out V6 addresses to our subscribers as well.
Yeah, and just so you know, Ben Lomond's not uncommon here. What we're doing is there's been lots of businesses that have not switched to IPv6 yet. So the good news is, we do have our IP space. We have purchased it, got it ready. The great news about IPv6 is, where IPv4, there's not enough IP addresses for like every person in the world. Where IPv6, I don't remember the exact number unless you looked it up.
I actually got it on my notebook here. It's
okay.
3.4. It's 340 trillion according to Google. That is 3.4 times 10 to the 38th power.
Per person or total?
Total V6 addresses.
Yeah, total V6 addresses, period, where IPv4 is a lot smaller.
Compare that with V4, which is about a little over 4 billion.
Yeah. So it gives, I know when I looked it up at one point in time, each man, woman, and child in the world gets, like 1 million something addresses themselves. So in terms of us running out of IP space on V6 at some point in time, it's just not going to be a thing we'll have to deal with. But, as you think about as new smart technologies, we've talked about even on the podcast about, I think you said your stove has Wi-Fi, your refrigerator, your bed. Your bed. Yeah. I mean, it's just like there's so many things needing IP space, and at some point we'll get there. But, as what we're seeing is we're not quite there yet, and there's not a big push to say, okay, we got to hurry up and get there. So, lots of businesses just haven't switched, and including us. There's really not a need or a large push there.
Going through some training about 12 to 15 years ago, the trainee at the time said, we'll cover V4 and V6 addresses, but in a couple of years there'll only be V6 addresses. There won't be anything else such as V4, and we've heard that for the last several years, and we continue to hear that. So the migration to V6 is definitely slow. And it may be many years before we actually see a full native V6 environment.
Yeah, and I'd also add that a lot of consumer grade routers, things like that, can't even support IPv6. Most of the newer stuff is trying to, but because there's not that big push, some of those things that you might go and buy at the store they don't support it yet. It's just because it's not ready for it. Yeah. Of course, it'd be probably more of a software thing, so they could probably do a firmware upgrade or something like that. But, it's just there's not a huge push to go to it yet.
And again, Ben Lomond does run V6 in the core with several upstreams, but we've just not pushed it to subscribers, just not had the need to at this point.
Okay. Since it's going to be about 5 years before you join us again on another podcast, I guess I'll have this question as well, and that is, when it comes down to making sure that folks like all of us and folks listening on the podcast here have an ample supply, I guess in some ways, of broadband. Kind of talk about what you and your crew are doing to help kind of ensure today and in the future that our broadband experience is just the best, and talk about just all the things that are happening kind of behind the scenes that you can talk about to continue to make Ben Lomond Connect future-proof.
So our team constantly is working on upgrading equipment, adding new equipment. It seems like every day we thought, a 1 gig link was enough, or a 10 gig link was enough, and now we're installing 100 gig links up to our providers and our upstreams. We're working on a lot of that. We're working on peering with a lot of companies. We've recently undertaken a project where we're a member of an exchange, and we're peering directly with some of the large providers, Google, Amazon, to get that traffic closer to us as close as we can to keep from having to route so much across our upstreams.
Gotcha. Something else that I think is very important that we don't get to talk enough about, I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast, and that is, you talked about outbound streams, the ability to be able to, let me back up. As far as being able to make sure that whether at homes or businesses, we have that access and that instant access to the internet. Ben Lomond finds itself in a little bit different position maybe than your average telco throughout the nation, in the ability to be able to have so many different options to bring in, I guess, download and upload streams of the internet. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So we are sort of in a unique situation at Ben Lomond. We have access to several transport providers that can take us to the backbone of the internet. And we are sort of in a unique situation that other telcos, smaller telcos, more rural telcos don't have access to. But we are working and already are in a couple of major data centers that give us access to those upstream providers. We have the option once we get to those upstreams. Having the ability to be in those data centers gives us the option to negotiate across multiple providers. We based on the quality of the data, based on the connection, the reliability, the cost, all those factors go into that.
So I know it's for a lot of folks, they believe that internet works based upon geography, that if I want to get to a server in Nashville, it just goes to Nashville. They think that, it's that simple, and unfortunately it's not. So kind of talk about what's some of the directions that we see, as far as some of our upstream connections, what kind of directions do they end up going to before they kind of spread out through the world?
So we're connected in a couple of different locations. Atlanta is one of our major locations, and so a lot of our traffic goes directly to Atlanta. A lot of it goes to Nashville, but that's sort of its origin. So when you're calling upon those web pages, when you're calling upon those streaming videos, that's often the first point of presence that we have, or the handoff spot in our network is Nashville, Atlanta. We have circuits to Chicago that some of that traffic may take as well. And so once it gets to those upstream providers, they make a determination, the closest route, say for Netflix, the closest route to get to Netflix once we get to those in-pop locations, Chicago, Nashville, Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Clent, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you will come back again soon.
2028.
Lucky to have you with us and to share all of your knowledge. With the retirement of Joe Hamby, we want to officially dub you internet guru in his absence.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the title I want or not, but thanks anyway.
Hope that makes you feel special for a few minutes.
Yeah, it does. Compared to Joe Hamby, it does, for sure.
Yes, it is. That is quite the honor, and that says a lot about somebody. So thank you very much for joining us for this section of the BLC Connection podcast.
This is Connect with BLC. Karen, what can we expect on Channel 6 and Connection Magazine?
Well, Channel 6 is busy as usual. We are wrapping up graduation season, and I want to remind everybody that all that content, your loved ones that you watched go across the line at graduating, will be residing on the YouTube, Ben Lomond Connect YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch that as much as you want to on that channel. We are also actively filming Table Talk, Soul of Warren County, lots of new episodes. And Bryan, you're working on something new possibly coming up later this year.
Yeah, later this year, we're looking at having another local show that hopefully will take folks into a deep dive into maybe some people that you know or have heard about. And we're not going to talk about maybe where that's going to take place, but I think that folks will find the place that we are looking to do that show in very familiar and cozy maybe. And so, yeah, those are the teases. We'll get to that. I think our hope would be that here in the next, where this is coming out in June, that as we move into fall, that we've got some other great local content on Channel 6 for folks to tune in on. So yeah, more information to come.
And of course, with the Connection magazine, the next edition of that will be coming out. It'll be a July-August edition. So lots of good things, good summer stories coming your way in that July-August edition.
Great. So, Bryan, what events can we expect in June?
Okay, we're obviously heating up, and so that means moving outside. This very early in the month, Warren County Relay for Life, I think, is Friday, June 2nd. Be sure and take advantage not only of all the great stuff that's going on that night in downtown McMinnville, but also something, Micah, that we're all, and Karen both, all very proud of, and that's the McMinnville Downtown Wi-Fi. That night and all year long, you can be able to take advantage of that. It's powered by Ben Lomond Fiber and free, courtesy of the city of McMinnville. So not just on Relay for Life night, but every night, every day, that good old McMinnville Downtown Wi-Fi is there in case you would like to upload or download or do whatever you want to along the streets of McMinnville. And then also, speaking of the streets of McMinnville, Main Street Live starts June 9th from the west lawn of Security Federal Bank. I'm surprised I've not seen Micah fastly making notes on this because, once again, I think free Wi-Fi courtesy of Ben Lomond Connect and the managed IT department of BLC may be offered again this year.
Yes.
Okay. I was expecting when I wrote this on here that I would see Micah's eyes light up and be like, oh, I've got to make a note that we get that going. So June 9th is when that kicks off. Just real quickly in the month of June, T.C. Bryant Band plays on June 9th. That's country. Stairway to Heaven, Zeppelin. Karen's going to be there waving her...
my lighter, my cigarette lighter.
On June 16th. And then Entice, that's Motown and R&B on June 23rd. And June 30th, the Joe Harvey Band, some good old rock and roll. All that, Main Street Live, Friday nights in McMinnville, west lawn of Security Federal.
Awesome. Great.
Yep.
So, Bryan.
Yes.
Karen.
Yeah.
One of the first times I tried to do this, I tried to do acronyms to see if you guys knew what the acronyms were. Well, I've got 4 new ones tonight. 4. Or today, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Want to see if you know. What does A&W of A&W Root Beer, what does A&W stand for?
I was going to say something like two people's last, like Anderson and Williams or something like that, like a last name or something.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
It is from the founders, Roy Allen and Frank Wright. Allen and Wright is what that stands for.
So it's the last name. So we just couldn't get the last name.
Now, something you might be familiar with. What does AT&T stand for?
Ooh, wow. You said a 3-letter word.
That's a dirty word around here, I know.
But what's it stand for?
I've heard that a million times.
Atlantic?
Yeah.
Telephone. Oh, am I on it? I'm not even on it.
Well, you got telephone, right?
Atlanta? You got any guesses?
No, I would have said Atlantic too.
Somebody who normally is not is typing Morse code, I think, in the back, Josh Elam, but I don't know.
It is American Telephone and Telegraph Company.
Telegraph. Okay.
Hey, I'll throw one in here real quick because
Telegraph,
you
that's what he was
teased
doing.
me with the A&W because I love root beer, and I saw this the other day on a game show. What thing did they used to put in root beer that they quit putting in root beer because it's really kind of toxic? Like it's
Arsenic.
herb.
Oh, I don't know. Oh.
Is it arsenic?
Nope.
Oh, don't know.
Sassafras. Think of sarsaparilla.
Yeah.
Used to you'd like see or you'd hear people talk about sarsaparilla. They used to put sassafras in it, but not anymore.
Did not know that.
Kind of glad they didn't.
Yeah.
All right. 2 more. One, next one is, what does Epcot stand for?
Oh,
I remember Figment.
City of Tomorrow is the caught part of that.
Close.
Close? It's not on it?
You got the last part right.
It's been so long since I've been there.
People is the P?
Nope.
I thought City of Tomorrow definitely was the
Close.
COT.
It is experimental prototype community of tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
And so the last one. What does WD-40 stand for?
Water displacement 40.
40. That's surprisingly that you know it's a water displacement 40th formula.
40th formula. Okay.
Okay.
And I
Yeah,
think I caught
absolutely.
that in
I'm
like
actually shocked you knew that.
well, I think that comes from like a Did You Know podcast thing or something. So, yeah.
Good.
No.
Hey, I couldn't live without WD-40.
I was gonna say,
That's some
no.
good stuff.
It is the best. It is the best.
So,
Fix many a squeaky door.
all right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Micah. Well, another episode has come to an end, and so as we wrap things up here, Micah, tell us about the mailbag.
Well, you guys can submit your questions to blcpodcast@benlomond.net, and we thank you for Mr. Williams sending us that question before. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and all the above.
Yes, blcpodcast@benlomond.net, right?
Yes.
Okay. Karen, mini episodes. You just got through knocking out one a little while back, and more on the way, I would assume.
Yes, still working on the mini episodes, and I love to get ideas for those. So if your business is working in, using technology to help your customers, or if it, helps your business in some way that you just cannot live without, contact me, and I would love to feature you on the next mini episode.
You can reach out to Karen at blcpodcast@benlomond.net. And then also, too, who's our next episode for the full BLC Connection podcast? We don't know, but we can tell you this. Jay Williams helped us pick a guest this week. So if you have questions, if you've got comments, if you've got things that you'd like for us to dive into, we would love to hear from you, because this kind of needs to be, and we'd like for it to be, your podcast. And so guide us, shoot us those questions, reach out to us. We would love to talk with you more about that. And till next time, gang, right? Karen Wilson, thank you. Micah Lawrence, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And so as we wrap it up, we'll tell you thanks for listening, and stay safe, and definitely stay connected.